So, the MightE Bambinos, a slightly different kart altogether from everything we've seen so far this evening. I keep saying that. This afternoon, sorry, and this morning. But it doesn't mean we're not going to serve up some brilliant racing. We're going to have a look at the grid and see how we're all going to be lining up. Kane Langley on pole position then, with Rhys David Richardson alongside him on row 1. Ansel Murray and Harris Barber on row 2 with Freddie Baker and Sidney Nell on row 3. Albert Batchelor and Max Joy are rounding out the row 4 and rounding out the grid, in fact, as well. So the MightE Bambinos, as I said before, they are an electric kart which does offer its own sort of, I wouldn't say problems, but challenges for sure, to be honest. Not something I ever had experience in when I was driving karts, especially considering we were obviously, that was 10, 15 years ago, and the technology wasn't exactly there yet. But it's nice to see that it's out here, it's being given a go, and it looks like it's offering up some awesome racing as well. Just scrolling through, as I said, they're available for starting at 4 years old. That's what the Electric Bambino is really designed to be, that's the audience they're designed to be identifying for. It's going to be a standing start, and it's going to be quick acceleration. I think we can probably all agree on that one. The tagline on the Electrics, or the MightE Bambino website, is the fact that they are the definition of plug and play. They want to be able to make sure that when you turn up to a grid, all you have to do is charge the motor and get going. I'm sure there's a lot more complicated factors that go into that, and probably far more complicated than I can dream to get my head around, but it's going to be very interesting to see. Apparently they can get up to about 50 miles an hour as well, so for 4 years old, this is going to be very interesting. A few of the dads there trying to wipe off some rain and spit. I'm just having a look, actually. It looks like they got wet tyres on there, and I don't blame them in the slightest. Over the course of the last 2 races, the conditions have really taken a turn, and we zoom in on those nice wet tyres there, yeah, just to confirm that I was absolutely bang on the money. So, yeah, we shouldn't see as many thrills. Well, we should see as many thrills. We might not see as many spills here in this. Oh, having said that, though, we've had a few people spinning at the top end of the field, so maybe it's a little bit wetter than I was actually anticipating. We are going to be going for a standing start, so there's probably enough time to be going through maybe Heat 1, 2, and 3 that we saw yesterday. Langley took that race victory, and in fact, he took all 3 race victories in the MightE Bambino class, and I believe he's on pole position again, so we could well see Langley taking another victory. Barber took 2nd place in Heat 1 with Richardson in 3rd. Heat 2, Richardson took 2nd place and Murray took 3rd. And Heat 3, Murray took 2nd and Richardson took 3rd. So again, some sort of obvious protagonists to be looking at as we see another spinner in the background. Luckily, that spinner manages to get back facing the right way, though, and will be lining up on the grid with the rest of the drivers. As I said before, the last thing you want to do is end up on the grass, as he's going very quickly through the final corner, to be fair. Luckily, he gets away with it. The last thing you want to end up is on the grass, because you're never going to come away from there on this wet grass. So as the mechanics run off, the steward just helping one of the drivers there make sure they're not jump starting, make sure they're in their legal position. All the karts should be on. Not that we'd be able to hear whether they're on or not, but all the mechanics have ran off the grid, so I assume that they will be. Board being held up, they're waiting for the lights, and we are away. And as I said, it's going to be quick acceleration for these drivers. They are karts that are capable of up to 50 miles an hour, I've been told, so it's going to be a bit tricky as they go up towards the top end of the circuit at full chat for the first time. Kane Langley gets a really good start with Rhys Davids Richardson, I think, is slotted into 2nd place. A little bit difficult there, but I think he might be overtaken by Harris Barber at this rate. No, in fact, it's Ansel Murray who's gotten up into the tight braking zone, and there we go. That's almost inevitable with the speed that these karts are able to go at, and it's a little bit difficult to sort of judge the turn in, the speed you're allowed to put in, the grip levels and all that sort of thing. But luckily, the majority of the drivers getting away with it, and nobody has been stuck either, which is nice to see. So we have everybody still rotating around the circuit. Kane Langley getting a little bit of a gap now. It's a very nice little space that he's got on here. Rhys David Richardson, I believe that's the 79 machine. Yes, it is. He's quite nicely in second place here. He was under a little bit of attack by Harris Barber earlier on, but he's just about held on to his second place. And Harris Barber actually fallen down a little bit. And Anselm, the reason for that is because Harris Barber has really fallen down the circuit. Potentially, I think that may well be. No, he's the 30. That's the 33, and unfortunately, those two drivers are beached. So that's Max Joy and Albert Batchelor. It's Anselm Murray actually who's promoted himself into third. Sidney Nell is in fourth, and Harris Barber's actually slipped down to fifth position. So maybe that's why we saw a big gap change. A big gap sort of come away from second and third and first, obviously. So we're just seeing a few of the drivers going down. This is Richardson, and he has Murray for company. Anselm Murray will be very hopeful to try and maybe take a second place away from Rhys David Richardson. The black and white plates, different as you can see from the blue and black plates, and that's to signify that the black and white, they are novice plates. So Anselm Murray, Sidney Nell, Harris Barber, Freddie Baker, Albert Batchelor and Max Joy. It would have been easier to read out the drivers that aren't novices, to be honest, because there's only two of them. And it's Kane Langley and Rhys David Richardson. And at the moment, Kane Langley is absolutely flying. And who is that spinning? And around T1, I've just heard a screech of tyres, and there is a spinner around T1. We'll just see who that is. It's the 33 kart of Max Joy, who was beached earlier on the track. He's been pushed back on circuit, but he's had a similar experience around T1, but this time all on his own, unfortunately. Barber and Nell are nice and close to each other, probably about the closest gap that we've got there on circuit, just looking at the timing tower, and I think that's what we're focusing on now. In fact, no, it isn't. We're actually seeing that Anselm Murray has got past Rhys David Richardson. We didn't quite see how that happened, but the important thing is the fact that it has happened. Anselm Murray in second place then, ahead of David Richardson, who doesn't look like he's up for giving it up early. And again, just like we saw in the previous race, it's all very well and good catching a driver because you're learning from their grip levels, you're learning from their braking zones, you're gathering all that information. But as soon as you're the driver ahead, you have to do all that information and all that research yourself, and it could come with slightly dire consequences, as we've seen in a few battles so far. Kane Langley has got an absolute massive gap, an 8.9 second lead. I suppose that's not exactly surprising given the fact that he has won the first three heats of this weekend. There's a little bit of a battle further behind these guys as well that I can see on the timing tower, but I think actually it's more to do with lapped drivers sort of get in on the mix with other drivers who obviously are on the lead lap. So the MightE showing that they can run in the wet. It's perfectly safe to do so, which is quite refreshing. Obviously, that's probably one of the things. Oh, it's the number 32. That's Barber, Harris Barber, spinning around there at the top end. That seems to be one of the most difficult sections of the track to be getting right. I suppose it's very high speed. You're pretty much flat out from the final corner all the way up into that braking zone, and you are sort of, the kart is under load on the left-hand side there as you hit the brakes. The kart is slightly heavier on the left-hand side because you've got a little bit of steering input through there. And on slippery conditions just like this, obviously everything is exemplified. And the grip, the tyres just give up and they just slide round, which is a bit of a shame. But a lot of these drivers still managing to get some really good lap times out there. Kane Langley, 106.5, Anselm Murray 108.6, Rhys Richardson 108.8. So those two very close together, Ansel and Rhys David. Only 0.2 of a second between them on their sort of last laps. And in fact, Kane Langley's just going faster and faster. He's just put in a fastest lap of the race with that 106.5. And in fact, they're all actually going slightly quicker. So I don't know if the rain has just stopped a touch, or whether or not the tyres are just getting that heat in, the drivers are just getting used to it, and they're just getting out there and sort of really pushing to see what the limits are. Obviously, the likes of Anselm Murray and Rhys Richardson will be pushing the kart as hard as they possibly can to try and get the advantage over each other. Kane in the race lead. I mean, he could slightly relax, I suppose, with 1 minute and 18 seconds to go. He's got an 11-second gap, or best part of it anyway, between himself and the two drivers who are just coming across the line now. It's actually improved to a 12.2-second gap. And David Richardson, he doesn't look like he quite has the pace here to catch up to Ansel, who's doing a really good job. Going to have a quick look at how this may correlate to the championship standings and seeing if this is what we expect to see almost. It is in terms of Kane, Ansel Murray and David Richardson, actually the three that you're currently looking at on circuit in terms of the positions they are, first, second and third, is how they sit in championship standings as well. But I have to say, David Richardson and Ansel Murray, there is only 2 points between them on drop rounds included. So crucially, we have 5 rounds here at the Bambino Kart Club. There is 1 round to be dropped. You have to be entered to be eligible to drop that round, apparently. It's slightly complicated. I won't get too much into it. But, yeah, you can't just not enter the round and not turn up, obviously, and have that as your included drop round. You have to enter. And then if you don't turn up, then you can include that as your drop round. But just looking at round 1, we had Jensen Brown, who I think we saw in another race earlier on. The race does escape me, but he was very dominant in rounds 1 and 2. Lots of race victories to his name, and obviously since he left, really Kane has picked up the mantle. He was getting seconds and thirds while Jensen Brown was around. But in round 3, Jensen Brown decided to go to the other series, and Kane Langley started picking up victories, as well as Ansel Murray, to be fair. So, and in fact, on that previous lap time, Ansel Murray slightly quicker by 0.2 of a second on Kane Langley. The timer has come down, and I think this may well be the penultimate lap. Not quite the final lap, because obviously it's the timer plus 1 more. As they come across the line, Kane Langley will start the final lap of the race. And what a race he's driven. 12 seconds the gap. He could pretty much turn around now and still not be able to see the next 2 drivers because he's about to go up the hill and the other 2 are about to start the hill. Having said that, David Jr. has unfortunately really dropped back from Ansel Murray, who's caught up to a back marker, I believe, just from looking at my timing tower, timing screen, that you can find yourself on alphalivetiming.co.uk. /BKC, as Harry Barber and Nell have swatched positions. That's for 4th and 5th. Good racing by those 2 drivers, very close to each other as well as they go up the hill, I can tell you. But we're focusing on Kane Langley. Driven brilliantly, not really put a foot wrong. We haven't even seen him do any corrective oversteer. He's just been driving his lines. Nice and calm. There we go, a little bit of correction on the input, but nothing dramatic. And the way to drive a kart is, and any car even as well, is you just want as little input as possible, nice and smooth, and a big swing of the finger there, both of them as well. Kane Langley delighted with that race victory, and he's still pumping his fist as he gets up the rest of the hill through T1. He's going to be a very happy driver. He's almost looks like he's waving to the fans that aren't even there as they go up the hill, which is I'm sure the trees and the sheep appreciate it. Anyway, Ansel Murray comes across the line. He takes his 2nd place, and Richardson in 3rd as well. Harris Barber, we're just waiting for them to see which way round Harris Barber and Sidney Nell ends up finishing the order. He's in 4th and 5th. A few drivers obviously been lapped. Baker, that means he's finished. And as they come across the line, it is Barber who takes 4th place. And it is Nell. No, it isn't. It's Baker who takes 5th position. I'm not entirely sure where Sidney Nell has disappeared off to. We'll see. I can't quite see the number of the driver there. That is Batchelor. I'm not entirely sure where Nell has disappeared to. Maybe the transponder just didn't pick him up. I can't see him out of my commentary booth. No other drivers are coming to take the line, so we'll just assume that Nell is actually parked right there. Yeah, Sidney Nell parked. I'm not entirely sure. Where is that, the entry to the pits? It is the entry to the pits, so that is just before we get into the pit lane. And I'm not entirely sure. He just seems to be waiting for maybe a little bit of assistance. Couldn't get the kart turned around in the right way. So unfortunately, I think Nell, that means he'll be dropping back into 8th place. So that was the MightE Bambinos. Next up, on the grid order, I can see them lining up on the dummy grid, will be the Honda Cadets.